Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a beautiful and brand new day, and welcome to Dear Miss T with Terry Ruel. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, and good morning, everyone. Happy spring again, or pleasant winter, wherever you're happen to be. We're having some wild spring weather down here. I was telling Dana there was a lot of tornadoes across the south the last few days, so we're feeling very grateful we didn't get any trees down here or any bad tornadoes, just some winds. But that's part of spring, and the rains bring the May flowers, right? And we're already in May, which I can't believe. It seemed like April just flew by. But what got me thinking about doing this topic today was kind of a experience I had myself the last few weeks. I got my second COVID shot, and I was elated. I mean, after a couple days, I started really thinking, wow, this has really happened. I'm really vaccinated now, and I could, start going out more and maybe plan a trip back to Michigan and see the rest of the family. And I really started to feel some joy that I hadn't felt, and an elation. And about the following week, I think it was, while I was still having this joy, the gun violence, the massacres, like, was there 3 of them in like 1 week or 10 days? And another African American child was killed. And it just like bottomed me out. And I just was like, oh, we have to learn how to cope with these extremes, because we are in extremes. I mean, we all know we've been in this dark night of the soul, these transitions, these initiations, whatever you want to call it. We are in, even globally, a huge transformation. And that means a lot of chaos and a lot of extremes and ups and downs. And how do we keep joy and hope alive in the midst of, almost weekly also being hit with some really, hard news to know how to process. And so that kind of got me thinking about, everything, the great teachers and mystics and Carl Jung, all the great teachers taught us that ultimately everything is a spiritual problem when we have problems. What does that mean? Well, it all comes down to, our true self or our soul. And what is affecting our soul? What is the wound? What is the void? What, at the depth of who we really are, where is that pain coming from, and what is it about? And so when we are going through this collective dark night of the soul, we're all on a mystical journey. And we have to know how to take refuge in this process and go into the darkness, go into the grief. That week that those shootings happened, and I saw myself looking back that in the beginning I was trying to fight to hold on to that elation, that joy I was feeling, instead of just allowing myself to sit down and cry and go into the grief I felt about the gun violence in this country and the social injustices. And so once I allowed myself to do that and just have a good cry and really pray about it and just kind of finally get to where I could give it to God and pray for everyone that was involved and keep making that a part of my daily care plan, then I was able to start experiencing more of the joy again that I really felt about the good things that were happening. Not only being vaccinated, but being able to pay attention to, the joy I felt with my grandson and different things he was doing, and with my family here, and the thoughts of, getting out again and maybe being able to get back to a book club eventually and in-person church and the things that I know bring me joy. So I could feel that again. And I also remembered I went through a period a couple of years ago when with the water protectors and, when we were trying to support all the people and with the stopping the pipeline and everything. And I really delved into learning more about climate change and read some books and a lot of articles, and I really went into somewhat of a depression for a while. I had read a couple stories about some scientists who had committed suicide when they realized the seriousness of climate change. But I knew I had to really know what was happening so I could find a way to process all of it. And when I realized I was getting really down about it, I did the same thing. I prayed, and I just, every night when I went to bed, I thought about it, because I know we can't do all this during the day. When we got to work, we have to take care of business. So, and I started to let myself feel the grief I felt about what was happening to Mother Earth. And I probably cried myself to sleep every night for 3 weeks. But in that process, I released a lot of the energy that was blocking me from also feeling the sacredness of Mother Earth. And after I went through that process, and I always thought I loved nature and had an appreciation of nature, but after I went through that grief process, it wasn't just totally over in 3 weeks. I still had periods where I had to, work on it. But I started to feel even more joy and even more sacredness and connection and elation with Mother Earth. And when I would go out in nature, I was noticing things I hadn't really either paid attention to as closely or really noticed. And so now I feel like, I have so much joy in nature at a deeper, deeper level. And, these experiences we have, they've helped me understand why it's so important for us to allow ourselves to go into all our feelings and not try to just, bypass or candy coat things, but allow ourselves to really feel our darkness as well as our light. If there's one thing, my mentor and therapist taught me was that we have to get to a point of surrendering and accepting that life is both wonderful and terrible, that there's equal parts of darkness and light, and that the arc bends towards life. But to keep it bending towards life, we have to allow ourselves to experience all of life. And that means we have to allow ourselves to go into the darkness of grief as well as the joy of light. Because it is in that darkness that we grow more spiritual maturity, more psychological maturity, more emotional maturity, where we are able to have deeper and deeper compassion for each other, for ourselves, for Mother Earth, for all creation. So when I get really stuck or discouraged, I try to remember that I might be blocking my own self from my own joy, because I might be needing to let myself go into the paradox or into the grief to find my joy. And when we resist that, we kind of usually go between two extremes. There's either denial or there's despair. And either one of those is going to keep us stuck and possibly, very unhealthy. Because, of course, denial, we won't do anything to help in the human world to solve these problems that we are all responsible to help solve. And if we're in despair, we could get, to where we would hurt ourselves or just become paralyzed, and that still hurts ourselves. So, there's a lot of mending that comes through just allowing yourself to be in that sadness or even the fear and, trying to not block it but just pray through it and let yourself feel whatever you're feeling. And if it's too scary to do by yourself, you need to have someone to do that with. And that's, one of the things that therapists and spiritual directors, other people can help with. Close friends, somebody you really trust that you can talk to about all your feelings. Accepting paradox is probably the hardest lifelong challenge that we all face. And it is a total surrender in a way to all that is. But that is where we find the beauty and awe in the truth of what life is. The Irish had an old saying about, life or death is in the middle of a good long life. And what's meant by that is that, if we don't suffer some kind of great death or loss in the middle of life, we don't usually really live life fully, because it's through that kind of death, ego death, deep loss, that we often is how we really deeply connect with ourselves, our true self, our soul, our own wounds, and find the compassion for ourselves and each other. And that is what's desperately needed right now, because if we don't, we have to find compassion at a deeper level to be able to solve the problem of this division, of seeing the other, going into the other. And it's happening right now because I think, as we've talked about, when there is going to be great transformation, everything that needs healing has to come up to the top. So everything that needs healing is showing itself now, in every way: physical healing, mental, emotional, spiritual, and we're also in a huge transformation of how the world is going to run because of technology and all the changes that are happening. There's a really interesting article Deepak Chopra just wrote on that I'll post on the page. So the transformations we're going to continue to go through are so huge that the only way we're going to be able to cope with this and manage this is to keep growing with it. And to keep growing with it, we've got to be willing, like I say, to go into all our feels, as the kids say, to process all the feelings about it, and also to keep being willing to learn. And we have to make a decision, too, on where we're going to learn and what we're going to listen to, and to accept that it's going to take some work, that we have to find truth. And we can't just take anything that's thrown at us. We have to search for the truth, find good teachers, and be willing to put some, effort into research and reading the people who are really well known for being truth speakers and seekers. And that's not always easy either, but you say there are always helpers, mentors and people, elders that can help guide as well as, your own guides. So let's see, where are we on time? So, I didn't want to just do some fluff today about, do your self-care and all that. I mean, we all know, I think everyone's been bombarded with, through this pandemic that you have to do this self-care, every day. And it's really important, but it also doesn't help to tell people, well, try harder to relax. I mean,
right.
That's kind of...
Right. That's the problem. Help me. Holly Hagen is in the chat room, and she's sharing something. Holly is saying, I'm struggling with anger right now when I see the behavior around me. I'm trying to use all of my tools, but it feels so much bigger than me. My mom keeps reminding me that I chose to come down into this lifetime during all of this. This helps somewhat. Thanks for sharing that, Holly.
Yes, thank you, Holly. And energy or anger is a real energy, and sometimes it is difficult to release. And my Qigong teacher, I may have spoken of this before, but he used to say, pain and anger, you have to release physically too. So he would say, like, if you stub your toe and you don't go, ow, that pain is going to stay in your toe more because that energy is stuck there. You have to release it out of your body. So that's why therapists, would say, get a Nerf bat and bat the pillow, or, scream in your car and release that energy out of your body and direct it towards, I'm so outraged about this social injustice, and God, you have to help me. And I'm just, just scream it out, Maybe not while you're driving, but, wherever you can feel totally free to release that. And you'll find it does help. It opens up a space for you to breathe deeper, really breathe in that deep, and breathe in that peace, and ask for help to feel more of that peace. And sometimes we have to do, that once a day for a while. Just like we do all our other self-care stuff. You might pray 10 minutes and meditate 10 minutes, and then you might go yell in the woods for a minute, So try not to judge any of the feelings. They're all okay. And outrage is a normal, healthy feeling to have when there's injustices and oppression and criminal activity going on, or anything that is hurting people or Mother Earth or animals. That's a healthy feeling. But we have to have a way to channel it and direct it, and people do that in different ways. Activism helps me direct some of that. And some people have to physically run it out or work it out. And activism can be very helpful in also, like the mystics tell us, just pick one thing that breaks your heart the most. And that's hard for a lot of us, because so many things feel like they break our hearts. But try to pick one of the things that really breaks your heart the most. Like, is it children? Is it animals? Is it, the planet? And channel some of that energy into doing something to participate in the healing of that. That can transform anger energy into a positive energy. So And the same with helping others. You know, it's huge to help us process all these extreme feelings we go up and down with. If we're just even doing one thing, you know, a week or a month to feel like we're helping other people. Um, and I'm sure a lot of people help people, you know, every day in their work and a lot of different things. But sometimes if it's directed at, you know, like if it really breaks your heart to see the homeless people, you just go and help at the soup kitchen once a month, or, you know, it can really help to actually do something like that that's connected to your heart in that way. Um, so I hope that helps. But
It
the
does.
solution is in our own hearts. You know, that's what the teachers tell us. And so, you know, spending time, giving yourself time and space to be in your heart. And, you know, that's not like, you know, try harder to meditate. No, it's like just make the space, make the time, and let it happen. You know, God will work through you and do the work. We just have to be available.
Rob,
And
Rob is sharing something pertinent to what you're talking about, you know, expressing in some way all of the feelings and emotions. Rob is sharing, anger is a constant companion. You only learn to not show, especially when your primary coping mechanism is taken from you by injury. And so there are some people, you know, that have a trauma related to being able to express emotions, or maybe you're brought up where you're stoic and you don't cry, you don't show emotions. And so the overwhelm that you're talking about, Terry, for some people, the mechanism for releasing has been blocked. What is a methodology for people that the coping mechanism has been blocked?
well, usually it takes more than one thing. A combination of stuff for anything that's blocked, you know, been traumatized to the point where it's blocked or wounded, that we can't get at it, is usually going to take a combination of methods to help us.
Okay.
That's why I love that got into the acupuncture and the Reiki to do along with the talk therapy, because I found that, including myself, most of us um, who are trying to work through any kind of trauma need more than one thing, something that helps you release physically as well as mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You know, in my years of my own therapy, I had, you know, a lot of talk therapy, a lot of energy work, um, and I still try to get that as much as I can and do, you know, Reiki on yourself, you know, acupuncture on yourself, um, and, you know, the meditation. I do walking meditation as well as sitting meditation. It's been, you know, it is harder to find time sometimes for all that stuff in our culture because we're such a workaholic, crazy culture. But, um, you know, the more you can do each day, even if it's just 5 minutes, you know, it's like taking that walk in nature and doing the Reiki on yourself and trying to do you know, even a walking meditation if you can't do sitting meditation. The more methods, you know, that you use, groups energy can help a lot, because then you've got the energy of healing from a lot of people, not just one person or one other therapist. Spiritual direction helped me a lot because I had to focus on some spiritual stuff. So, you know, it's going to take more than one method, and healing is a lifelong journey. And I know that's hard for us to accept, just like it's hard for us to accept that life is a paradox, a wonderful parable. But once we accept that, it's the joy in the journey becomes the joy. You know, it's not the destination. It's learning to live, like they say, one day at a time. And the 12 steps. It really is the secret, because if I live one day at a time, then I'm going to make space and feel more open and not so burdened to be able to do more of these things one day at a time that help me. And, they say in the 12 steps too that you keep sobriety by giving it away. That's the paradox of healing too, that part of it is staying interactive with people that you are helping and are helping you. Like I say, all that connection helps us heal too. Like, we need that connection with each other as much as we do with our spiritual teams and our spiritual uh, hierarchy of whatever you want to call it, of guides and helpers and angels and saints, and however you believe that works for you. We've found that over the pandemic, I think even more so, that not having enough connection, it makes it more difficult to deal with life. And you want to make sure that connection is healthy. That these are people who are trying to move in the direction of growth and healing and truth. And I'm not talking about, just positive affirmations and people who just want to pretend like everything's okay, but people who are committed to growing through loving kindness. Because anything else, not only will it not work, but it's going to keep us stuck, and it's going to, keep the collective stuck. So the only way we can stay in loving kindness is to be very loving kind to ourselves first. And nobody's going to do it perfectly, and we don't have to do it perfectly. But if I am learning to be compassionate and loving and kind with myself and my own wounds, it's going to be easier for me to put that out into the world and be that way with other people. Doesn't mean we have to agree with them, but we can kindly, emotionally detach and say, my mom used to say, I just say I'll pray for you and hang up, because she used to call us all the time, and she'd just say, I just say I pray for you, and I hang up.
Aww.
And she would, And so, it's kind of like that. It's like you don't buy into it, you don't let it affect you or hurt you if you can help it. That doesn't mean you don't feel, the outrage for a minute, but if it's, if you can turn it over and give it to God and bless them on their way, that's great. If it's something, like I say, a big thing, that you're going to have to process it, and you're going to have to give yourself some space and time to do that. And then you'll be able to release it.
Del Marie is in the chat room, and she's sharing, my father always said to look at the lesson when our emotions are stirred up. We learn to dump at the inipi. So at the Sweat Lodge, a lot of people in prayer ceremony will release, in the ceremony, there's a feeling of being safe in releasing in certain situations. Yeah.
That's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. And that's another reason why ritual is so important, especially sacred rituals, because they help us release and come back to wholeness.
Right.
And that is what is going to help us help each other.
Del is saying dumping at the inipi is a symbology that we give to Unchimaka, or Grandmother Earth, to help nurture us. Thank you for sharing that, Del.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think ritual is one of the things that so many of us have missed in this pandemic. And so, I'm joyful because I feel like I can get back to some more of that with other people, as well as if we use this time to help build our own personal rituals, and that can be a great comfort also, to have your altars and your things that you're doing, and you don't have to let go of that now. You'll be able to add, be able to add to that by doing things with other people again. Excuse me. So, that helps us find our joy
Mm-hmm.
and our hope.
Yeah.
Because challenges are always going to be here, and sometimes right now they feel like they're overwhelming. So we need each other to be able to keep our hope alive. That one day at a time we're going to keep moving through these challenges, and no matter how dark it looks, like I say, so far. The evidence is that the arc always bends towards life. So when all else is feeling desperate, I hang on to that and say, I'm going to keep believing that no matter how dark it might seem some days, we keep going forward in love, that life will win out in the end. Well, there will be no end. It will, because there is none. We know that. So that can help too. Knowing that there really is never any end. Things will keep transforming.
Mm-hmm.
Energy never dies, it just changes. So we keep trying to change it towards love.
I love that. What a great way to wrap up your show, Terry. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
What a great show today.
It's great to be with you all.
Thank you, everybody, for joining Terry this morning. I love our monthly Meet with Terry. It's always inspiring, and what a beautiful note to leave off on. That life goes on and on and on. This too shall pass, but let's get into the game of life.
Amen. God bless everyone.
Blessings be everybody. Have a beautiful, brilliant day.
Bye-bye.